What you're witnessing on screen right now is a little slice of gaming bliss. A bliss that captivated millions of people when Ghost of Tsushima released back in 2020. While it was broken up by the sometimes repetitive nature of the side missions, lots of bamboo strikes, fox den missions where you're just following a cute fox down a field into some rocks, or even insanely long and complicated forts to liberate. There was at least a progression of the difficulty in the side missions and activities as you traveled further up the island of Tsushima that gave you an incentive to keep going. Not to mention, it would always involve you discovering some new site somewhere on the island that would just leave you in awe, staring at your screen, especially if you had an OLED screen. I'll never forget one of the weekends around when the game first came out. I don't remember if it was a Saturday or a Sunday, but it was raining. And I remember being in my room, just turning on the game, picking up where I had left off the night before, finishing the prologue, going through that epic title sequence, running through the field with your horse. I had named him Sora. And the only mission that was available was to go to the Golden Temple. But hey, who goes to the Golden Temple, right? Maybe some people do, but I'm more of an explorer myself. I like to just go off the beaten path and see what I find. And I remember coming up on the Amaterasu shrine, going to the top, reaching the cliffs, and seeing the single most beautiful sunrise I had ever seen in any open world game that I've ever played. And I've played many. There was something about the emphasis that Sucker Punch put into making the world constantly feel like it was taken straight out of ancient Japanese paintings that really resonated with me my entire playthrough of Ghost of Tsushima. I remember my first time walking through the field of spider lilies, in awe of the sunset, bleeding through all of the plants as far as the eye can see, only to be completely jarred by the fact that I was actually walking up on a circular arena where a Ronin duel was to take place. And I stopped and I looked around and I just couldn't believe that I was about to have a Ronin duel here. I mean, you could take a million photos with that sequence and you'd probably never get one as beautiful as just playing the game. The reason why I say all of this is because it seems like we've come to forget exactly what Sucker Punch is capable of when it came to Ghost of Tsushima. As more time has passed since the Ghost of Yotei trailer, it seems the doubt around the game and the decision to move away from Jin to a new protagonist hasn't really subsided. If anything, it's only gained a little steam as people have had more time to digest the decision that Sucker Punch has made and to really, I guess, dive into not only that decision, but the person that they decided to put behind the face of Atsu. It seems like we don't remember what those initial months were like with Ghost of Tsushima anymore, as if so much time has passed and so much content has been made from the game that we forgot exactly what made Ghost of Tsushima the spectacular experience that it was when it first came out. Maybe not in the sense of what we think about the game itself, but more in the way that we allow these outside narratives to sort of warp our expectations for Ghost of Yotei, even if they have nothing to do with game development. We'll get into some of those narratives that have formed over the last 2 weeks since my initial video, but first, this is Filmic Take. If you guys enjoy the conversation, leave a like, subscribe, share it, tell all your friends, and feel free to come at me if you disagree. It's an open dialogue down there in the comments section. All opinions welcome. So with that, let's get to it. There's a common thought when it comes to media and movies, even games, that many times a sequel isn't needed. That the story initially created is best served to stand on its own and shouldn't be tampered with for the sake of continuing the story or for a cash grab. But for some reason, when it comes to Jin, there seems to be a disconnect in the community on whether or not his story is actually done. I'm in the camp that his story is done, and that the legend of the ghost is really the only direction to go. But there are many people on the other boat. Some people mention the second Mongol invasion as a way to continue the story. In my opinion, that would be entirely too repetitive, and it's also going to lack the power of the first game, with the fact that there would be an absence of Jin's internal conflict. He's the ghost. He fully embraced and took on the good and the bad that came with that at the conclusion of Ghost of Tsushima. Some people mention that he's hunted by the Shogun, and the game could be about his survival. Actually, that goes against his nature. A lot of people should be arguing that there's no world where Jin is slaughtering honorable samurai just for his survival. The ghost was necessary for Tsushima to be saved, but there was no point in Ghost of Tsushima where Jin enjoyed what he was doing enough to continue doing it when there served no purpose but his own. I feel like it's much more believable that he would continue his days as the first game had ended. A fugitive, hiding in the shadows, helping the people of Tsushima when he can, and showing only when needed. Nothing enough to create a whole game, in my opinion. Then there's the apprentice angle. Well, he could have easily moved to mainland Japan and had an apprentice that he taught his ways. Listen, in theory, that's probably the best argument for continuing Jin's story, but I think this goes against his nature too. His loyalty in his home is Tsushima, and to think he would leave as a middle-aged man to mainland Japan just doesn't fit his narrative arc. And again, his ways of the ghost weren't something that he was ever proud of. It just leads me to believe that he wouldn't have an apprentice. It makes more sense that his legend was passed down by word of mouth and inspired generations of ghosts after him. It's one of the reasons I believe there's gonna be a mythical tale featuring Jin in Ghost of Yotei. They could pull from his harrowing battle with the eagle, or even Kublai Khan. Perhaps the legends of what he did at Yarikawa. There's just so much for Sucker Punch to pull from for that mythical tale that it's too much of an opportunity to pass. Along with mythical tales for all the other heroes from Ghost of Tsushima. Could look at one for Sensei Ishikawa, or perhaps Yuna, or even Lady Masako. Bottom line, the possibilities are endless for how they can incorporate Jin's legend from the first game as influence for Atsu in the second game. No matter how many centuries it is in the future, the presence of the ghost is still there. He was not replaced. He was simply made a legend. And while there are many people that may be curious about the life and children that Jin may have had after the game, the legend stops there. And for this game, it's about the ghost. It always was about the ghost. That's why it's in the title. So it's much more believable that the legend is what is passed down, as opposed to Jin having his own apprentice in order to teach his ways in the dark arts of being a ghost while moving to mainland Japan and training a warrior in the image of something that Jin did not agree with, but only thought was necessary in the moment for his island to survive. As he said in the game, the world has changed, but he would always hold on to the good man that he was. If you guys remember the conversation that he had with Yuriko when he got to Omi village, and he procured his armor from his home.
Poison has never been the Sakai way.
No Sakai had to fight the Mongol Empire. I need every weapon we have. Tsushima can't afford anything less.
The Mongols have changed you, young master.
The world has changed.
My mother taught me about plants that heal, others that harm, even kill. But they must be consumed. How will you poison the invaders?
A blowgun and darts. I've read of their use by a Genji warrior who studied with monks from the west. Will you help me?
Promise me you'll remain the good man I know.
I promise.
It's very clear that Jin is aware of what he is doing and how dark it is, simply by the reactions of Yuriko as he asks for the poison darts and hallucination darts that he's looking for, and if she can make it enough to kill a man. What Jin has done in the first game is not something that he would like to spread around, but as we can see, word of mouth spreads, and as much as you might want to keep your actions and your deeds in the dark, the legend has a power of its own and will spread at its own speed. This is how the legend of the ghosts moves forward throughout the centuries, but not through an apprentice. If you want to go back to the game and look at one part that really showed that his story would most likely be done, it would be that final decision that the game gave you on what you wanted to do with Lord Shimura. Do you want to spare him, deny him his honorable death, a warrior's death, only for him to go and report his failure to the Shogun, send the Shogun after you, and also probably put Shimura's life in danger, as he would probably be cut down for his failure of bringing the ghost to justice? Or give him his honorable death, do right by your uncle, and still continue to live out your days as a fugitive? With this choice and the open-ended nature of the game, it came off as if it was less about the story and giving it a path forward, and more about Jin embracing the ghost and what comes with that, regardless of what happens with Lord Shimura. It's like those decisions you play back over and over again in your head, where you wonder what you could have done or what could have happened, but it's in the past and it can't be changed. Yet you've got these running narratives in your head of what would have happened if you would have made that decision one way or the other. A lot of people mention how the story was continued semi-successfully with Ishii Island. But really, that story was just about closure for Jin and what happened with his dad and the guilt that he feels for that, since it was a little present throughout the game itself, the main game, but it wasn't present enough where he actually got closure on it. That was a decent reason to continue the story, and instead they decided to put it in a DLC. I feel like that really wrapped up Jin's character arc once the Ishii Island expansion was done. But you guys let me know down in the comments what you guys feel about Jin's story. Let me know what your theories are, if there are any different ones than from what I've mentioned here on how his story could have continued. The next narrative that we probably go into is the one that's most prevalent amongst all of this, and it's the angle with Erika Ishii. In my opinion, she's a voice actor, a motion capture actress. The concern over her just gotta stop. She's not the head of marketing. She's not a lead developer or an animator. She's not a director. She's not a writer. She's simply going to be acting. Anything she does outside of this game should be irrelevant. I mentioned the controversy as baseless before, and I'm standing by it. We have seen one trailer with some pretty awesome yet vague things shown, some weapons, a few seconds of combat, a ton of shots with the world, but nothing with Atsu yet. Similar to the marketing with Ghost of Tsushima, we knew a couple of things about Jin, but the majority of the marketing was based around the enemy, the beautiful setting, and the atmosphere and immersion of Tsushima. Erika's got a job to do. Let me know in the comments one time a voice actor or mocap actor ruined the game with their political views. I can't think of a single one. It's usually always in leadership in some form where that becomes a problem. Now, one thing I do believe is that while this type of rhetoric around the game sucks right now, the game industry has done this to themselves. And it's not just with woke DEI stuff. Suicide Squad, Concord were bad and infested with horrible character designs, soulless gameplay, and a lack of innovation. But even games like Star Wars Outlaws, Redfall, Saints Row, Forspoken, amongst others, they seem to lack the understanding of what makes a good game. It's no coincidence that games like Stellar Blade and Black Myth Wukong, The First Descendants, Helldivers 2, Space Marine 2 are all wildly successful this year. It's almost like players are running an open protest to support games just focusing on being good games again and deliver a fun escape from the monotony of everyday life. But that's what sucks, because that's what Ghost of Tsushima was, and what Sucker Punch focused on for every second that they developed that game. To make an experience regardless of Jin, to take you and drop you in one of the most immersive games ever made. That's what Ghost of Yotei will be, in my opinion, from what we've seen so far. Listen, cautious optimism is warranted. Gamers deserve to exert that, especially after everything that's happened. The games industry has lost that trust with DEI and just flat out bad games. But completely writing the game off because they made a change to a character or hired someone that people don't like just to play a character just shows that your views on gaming are not focused on gaming. In essence, those people are making the same mistakes that some of these gaming failures have made recently. They're not focusing on games anymore. And you're too infatuated by the outside forces to realize that sometimes, in some cases, you just gotta pick up a controller and enjoy the experience. all of this will blow over, and eventually, the game will release, and people will judge it on the gameplay and work that Sucker Punch has put in from beginning to end in their new project. But I'll leave it at that. Comment down below what you guys think about the points I've laid out in this video. Again, it's an open dialogue down there, so feel free to express your thoughts and debate, respectfully of course, in the comments. I'll be sure to chime in whenever I can. I also wanted to show some appreciation to everyone that commented on my initial video and debated amongst themselves down there in the comment section. It was really cool to see all the engagement, and I hope I got to everyone's comments, addressed everything that was said down there. If I missed anything, let me know. We'll probably do a follow-up video at some point when we get more information about Ghost of Yotei. But for now, we're going to be jumping into another topic next time in the gaming industry, break down something else and something new. If you enjoyed the discussion, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. It'll only help the channel grow and bring like-minded people to the Filmic crew to discuss with us and enjoy theater-style cinematic edits of games that we make. I want to give a shout out to the Bloodbath edit that was released just this week. It's a nice little cinematic slice based on the world of Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 that just released in September. And I do want to announce a Silent Hill 2 project that's in the works. This is bound to hype anybody up who hasn't jumped over the fence to try that game out. But until next time, this is Filmic Take. Peace out.